What a disappointment. Putin and President Trump just met, and it seems like nothing got done in their meeting. Today, in this English lesson, we are going to watch a newscast from Fox News. Now, they love President Trump, so keep that in mind as we watch. This is going to be a great English lesson if you are studying for the IELTS or TOEFL exam, or if you just want to have better conversations in English. If that sounds useful to you, please go ahead, hit that like button. That way other English learners will find the lesson. And if this is your first time here, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss another English lesson.
All right, we are broadcasting from Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson. We are in Anchorage, Alaska. Joining us now with reaction to today's historic meeting are Senators Tom Cotton, Arkansas, Lindsey Graham, South Carolina. Lindsey, start with you. A couple of things really stand out to me. Vladimir Putin saying to the world, this war never would have happened had Donald Trump been president. Donald Trump, scale of 1 to 10, gives it a 10. I took a lot away from this interview. Your thoughts?
Number one, I don't really care what. I blame Putin more than anybody else for starting the war. I want to be clear about that. But let me tell you, I've never been more hopeful this war can end honorably and justly than I am right now. The news you made in this interview, to me, is earth-shattering. President Trump said that Putin wants him to meet with Zelensky.
In the newscast, they are talking to two senators. We have a total of 100 senators. They are from all of the 50 states, and they meet in Washington, D.C. They're very powerful people. So let's talk about who we see in the video. First up is Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. If you look at the map and you see that star, that is basically where South Carolina is. And he is a Republican. Remember, this is Fox News. They love Trump. They love Republicans. And here is Senator Tom Cotton. He is from Arkansas. He is also a Republican. And AI also helped me make this picture. They messed up a little bit. If you look at the red circle, that is where Arkansas is. Now, they talked about standing out, like what stood out from the meeting. And for me, not a lot did, but it was different for the senators. But if something stands out, it means different from the rest. Take a look at all of those green apples. Of course, the red one stands out. So after the meeting, Trump and Putin went up to the podiums and they talked for a little bit, but nothing stood out to me. But here's an example sentence for the English phrasal verb stood out. One of Trump's comments stood out in the meeting. Please let me interrupt this English lesson for just a second. If you are looking for a speaking partner, I can be your speaking partner. If you check out the description below, there is a link that will take you to learn more information. It does cost some money, but I have been teaching for 20 years. I will not steer you wrong. Yes, it does cost money, but right now I am offering a coupon for 10% off. Use the code SUMMER10 at checkout to get your 10% off. If you want to improve your English speaking, check out the link below. Now, back to the English lesson. Takeaway, we have a lot of different ways we use this one, but in the newscast, they used it like this. The main point you learn after a meeting. Like you might hear, what was your biggest takeaway from the meeting? My biggest takeaway would be like, it seemed like nothing got done. But here's a sentence using takeaway. The takeaway was that nothing new was agreed on. Now, on Monday, Now, on Monday, it seems like Zelensky and Trump will be meeting, so that may be one big takeaway from the meeting. We'll have to see. What if someone says, I want to be clear in English? That means to make sure people understand. Trump said, I want to be clear. We made no deal. They use the term justly in the newscast, and that means in a fair way. Putin said he was justly protecting his country. Do you believe that? Please let me know in the comments. Do you think Putin was just protecting Russia when he invaded Ukraine? Well, when Putin invaded Ukraine about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, that was definitely earth-shattering news. Earth-shattering means very surprising or big. People hoped for earth-shattering news, but nothing happened, right? Wouldn't it have been great if Putin and Trump said, hey, we have a ceasefire? But that might have been kind of hard to do since Zelensky was not at the meeting.
That Putin is now apparently agreeing to a trilateral meeting between Putin, Zelensky, and Trump. That's the biggest breakthrough of the night. I've never heard that before. If we have that meeting, I think there will be an honorable and just end to this war before Christmas, well before Christmas. If that meeting doesn't come about, then I think Trump's going to have to use severe consequences against Putin and those who buy his oil and gas.
Senator Cotton, what was your big takeaways of this?
Yes, Sean, I agree. That would be a very critical meeting between Presidents Trump, Putin, and Zelensky. There's no ceasefire coming out of this meeting today, but also I thought President Trump stood firm in defense of U.S. interests and also our friends in Europe and Ukraine. This is in contrast, for instance, to Joe Biden's summit with Vladimir Putin in the summer of 2021. In just 2 months, we saw the collapse of Kabul, and then 2 months after that, we saw Vladimir Putin begin to mass forces on Ukraine's border. So I think it was an inconclusive meeting, but an important step forward. And as Lindsay said, if that leads to direct negotiations between the presidents of Ukraine and Russia, I think we'd be in a position to have a durable and stable peace that protects Ukraine's territory, autonomy, and sovereignty, and allows it to build for its future.
If he was at the meeting, it could be called a trilateral meeting. Let's get the definition for that. It means involving 3 countries. Some wanted a trilateral meeting with China too. Now, that is just an example sentence. That would be a crazy meeting, right? If President Xi of China and Trump and Putin all got together, that would be kind of earth-shattering. But you can see in the picture, this would be the best meeting for Ukraine if the US, Ukraine, and Russia were at the table, the negotiating table. Instead, this meeting was bilateral, bi meaning two leaders. Unfortunately, it does not seem like we had a major breakthrough with this meeting. A breakthrough is a big step forward. Reporters asked if there was a breakthrough. There wasn't. I'm sure every day you study English, you have some sort of breakthrough. You learned something you didn't know before. It is critical to study your English every day. Critical means very important. This was a critical chance to improve relations. You might hear somebody needing critical medical help. That means they need it right now. Stood firm. Ukraine has been standing firm for the last 3 years. If you stand firm, or in the past you stood firm, that means did not change position. Putin stood firm on what he wanted. They also used contrast in the newscast. That means a big difference. There was a contrast between promises and results. In the picture, you can see there is a big contrast between all of those white sheep and that black sheep. You could also say that black sheep stands out from the rest because they are a different color. Oh, this was an embarrassing day for the United States. The collapse of Kabul. This is when Afghanistan's capital fell to the Taliban in 2021. The US looked very weak after that, and I have a sentence that might shed some light on what Putin was thinking when he invaded Ukraine. Some said Putin saw how the US handled the collapse of Kabul and decided to invade Ukraine. Remember, this is from Fox News, so they really don't like our former president, Biden. So, of course, they are going to feel this way. In the English lesson before this one, before the meeting happened, I chose a newscast from CNN. They love Democrats. They love Biden. You might want to watch that English lesson after this one. I'll leave a link to it at the end of this one. Mass. We have many different ways we use mass in English, but in the newscast, they used it as a verb and they used it like this: to gather in large groups. They were talking about troops massing at the Ukraine border. Here is a sentence that uses mass. Protesters began to mass outside the building. And of course, this did not happen in Russia. Putin does not allow protests. A great way to describe that meeting is inconclusive. What does inconclusive mean? It means no clear result. The meeting was inconclusive. Nothing was decided. What if something is durable? Durable means strong and able to last. They wanted a durable peace plan, but didn't get one. At least not yet. Hopefully in the very near future. We will see what happens after this meeting with Trump and Zelensky, and I will probably do another English lesson about that meeting. Stable. Stable. Again, we have many different meanings for the word stable, but in the newscast, they used it like this: steady, not changing suddenly. Also, you could say strong. The leaders talked about keeping things stable. In the picture, we have a stable table. That table looks like it will not fall if you put a few heavy things on it. Unfortunately, life in Ukraine right now is not stable. Two big words here. They mean basically the same thing. I will pronounce them a couple times. We have autonomy and sovereignty. Autonomy and sovereignty. Autonomy means self-rule. Sovereignty means full control of a country. Yeah, they mean slightly different things, but they mean almost the same thing. Many world leaders said that Ukraine's autonomy and sovereignty were important. Putin was not one of those leaders. Congratulations, you made it to the end of another English lesson. Don't forget, I am offering classes to speak with me to improve your English speaking. Take a look at the description below. Also, if you would like to watch the newscast without my talking, there's a link to that too. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.